going to move on to the second banner. Oh, no, we have a question. Tenor Tube, I have Vanille, Reigns, and Larsa BSB as I do now. How would you change the banner for you? Well, I have all three of those as well, and it doesn't change it at all. That's just empty stuff on the Burst Soul Break section that I had already written off. Would I prefer non-dupes in the Burst Soul Break section? Yeah, but I need what the strength that this banner represents has not been changed by anything in the Burst Soul Break section. Congratulations, Caster. Alright. On to Festival Banner 2. Which is a complete fire theme. I understand. I understand that there's enough fire things in this game to make an entire festival on fire things. But my goodness, there can't be many people out there that are begging for an entire fire festival banner. I like it when fire is paired with other stuff, so you don't have to go too heavy into an element that that you have a high chance of getting on basically every event banner, and almost all multi-elemental things, like even the Bart's banner, which seems like it skews towards Earth because it has Galoof's Generation 2 chain on it, which is an Earth chain. It still skews to fire because Bart's is ASB and Glint are on there. So it's just weird, and this is going to be a good banner for people searching for fire. I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm just saying I guess I prefer it would be one of those half and half banners, like Banner 4, which is Ice and Water. I liked the fifth banner of the last festival. Okay, next up, we'll talk about these 5, 6 stars. We have a Glint on this banner, at least. Didn't have one on the last one. But only 3 LMRs. Another, oh my goodness. Is that 6 BSBs? No, it's only 5. Right, one, the Glint's taking up a spot. Okay, so let's take a look at these 5, 6 stars. An ASB, automatically extremely good. Belongs to Terra, one of the best fire mages in the game. Very, very exclusive company. And the relic itself is a +fire sword, so it makes a fantastic dupe, and even better just picking it up. Even if you never used Terra, which would be weird if you had her ASB. So there's not much I can say about that. ASBs are about as simple as chains, and they're easy to understand. It's obscene strength. Obscene strength. So that's one very powerful relic. Next up, we have Gilgamesh's chain. Again, not going to talk a lot about the chain itself, because it's just a Generation 2 chain, and you've already seen 2 of those in the festival. But I will talk about Gilgamesh and how good of a physical fire character he is. And he's a good one. Thank goodness that he's finally a good character. Let's see. We'll start with the Legend Dive. Which gives him Protect, Shell, Haste, and Gilgamesh Trance when his HP falls below 20%. Protect, Shell, and Haste, probably not that useful. I feel like that's just for flavor. It's really just when my HP falls below 20%, then I trigger Gilgamesh Trance. Gilgamesh Trance just happens to be really good. It is unfortunately not one of those ones that fills your health to full. So it's not a situation where you're going to want to start out at the beginning of the fight triggering the trance, unless you also work in a way for him to get an immediate heal after he gets trance. But if you are able to work that in, or it gets triggered during the course of a fight, then Gilgamesh Trance is, for 25 seconds, he gets a 30% try buff. I believe it's 30%. It's either 20 or 30, but they're both good. Yeah, attack, defense, and resistance plus 30%, and cast speed times 3. Yeah. Cast speed times 3 means that Gilgamesh is going to be firing away if you trigger his trance. For 25 seconds, too. That's pretty extended. The only other two characters that I know get a cast speed times 3 are Shantoto and Sephiroth, and both Shantoto and Sephiroth also have kind of a detriment attached to their trance, and that would be... Defense and resistance minus 30%, magic plus 30%, and cast speed times 3. So you do pay a bit of a price for this times 3 cast speed on all 3 of these trances, but they're all really good. So I like Gilgamesh as a character there. Gilgamesh gets an LMR on the spanner, 25% chance to dual cast samurai abilities. Also good. He's a fire character, so that's how he deals his fire damage. If there are any PHY attacks, Gilgamesh will be retaliating. I'm sure Shantoto enjoys living on the wild side, but it does make her more susceptible to death. Oh, right. Let's go talk about the 2 samurai abilities, because they don't get talked about very often, and for good reason. Because these are the 2 abilities that he'd be using. For now. He gets other options. Warring Flame and Smoldering Moon. Warring Flame for single. 50% additional critical chance if the user has Retaliate or High Retaliate. So what you want to be doing here, in order to make this 3.0 multiplier get better, because 3.0 is pretty low for a 5-star ability, is use Smoldering Moon to give him the Retaliate status. At which point you can use Warring Flame to get a 50% additional crit chance. That is a crit buff, not a fix. So if you were using someone like Onion Knight with his physical USB, that would be 50% from Onion Knight, plus 50% more from Gilgamesh from Warring Flame. So 100% chance to crit. 100% chance to crit on a 3.0 means that this turns into a 4.5 multiplier. Obviously a very, very powerful multiplier on a 5-star ability. And that's just what we have for now. That's how you would run Gilgamesh for now. In the future, we get access to, oh my god, 2 more 5 stars. Hellfire, which is a fire version of Hailstorm. Awesome. I mean, everyone that has used Ayame understands how good Hailstorm is as a 5-star ability. Having good damage output as well as having a buff on top of it is just really powerful. So Hellfire is an awesome ability. And Flame Strike, which is 5 attacks, 20% increased critical chance just by default. It doesn't have any qualifiers. So that's kind of nice. It means you don't have to run Roaring Flame, Smoldering Moon to give him Retaliate. And this means you don't have to cast the Retaliate attack. One of the sucky things about the Retaliate attack is that Retaliate only lasts 15 seconds. And the ability itself is only 2 single attacks for a 2.0, so you don't really want to use this ability if you don't have to. So that makes this really interesting in my eyes right off the bat. And a 3.55 is a pretty good multiplier. And you're getting a 20% additional crit chance, which increases that multiplier passively. But what's an Eye Strike? Mind plus 30%, defense and resistance minus 30%. It's not that useful. It's not that useful. It's actually bad. They have to balance out the power of this ability, I guess. And I see it. It's a really powerful ability. Having a 3.55 base multiplier and 20% increased crit chance is a very powerful ability. But, whew, that is a rough status. It's a good thing his trance increases his defense and resistance plus 30%, huh? Yeah, the mind reduces debuff counters. I don't know if I would use this. I'll be frank. I would probably Hailstorm over this for a 3.2. I'd sacrifice the extra damage over 5 attacks. Oh my god. I would really want to use this. But, you know what? I probably would. I'd use them both. Screw it. Live on the wild side. Give me Hailstorm and then let me hit for 5 times. Being able to hit 5 times instead of 4 is just such an awesome benefit. Give it to me. But as you can see, we got a couple question marks here below them. This is a 6-star fire samurai ability. So Gilgamesh will be very good with his chain, with his 25% chance to dual cast samurai abilities, with his good trance, with 5-star abilities, and in the future is actually going to get better. So there's the improvement to Gilgamesh doesn't stop here. He gets better. With a 6-star version of Warring Flame, which is 5 attacks, probably has a 50% chance to 50% increased critical chance, higher multiplier, of course, as long as he's Retaliate or High Retaliate. So that's knowing that this is coming, in my opinion, is very important to know, and something Japan didn't get. So Gilgamesh having a chain is actually a really good thing. Next, I don't have to go into how good of a character Gilgamesh is. We can just talk about Gilgamesh's USB 2, which is 10 single target, fire non-elemental, end fire, and EX no questions. So pretty basic USB so far. No questions. Attack plus 30% and cast Strongest Sword after using a samurai ability for 15 seconds. Strongest Sword randomly deals 1, 4, 6, or 10 single target physical non-elemental attacks. So you have a 75% chance of this being a basic chase. And a 25% chance of it being just an insane chase at 10 single target. I think this is a really good USB on a really, really powerful physical fire character. Yeah, Cyan actually does get improved. That's a good point. Cyan gets improved by that 6-star samurai ability, because he never has to cast any retaliate ability and waste turns on that 2.0 multiplier attack. So Gilgamesh becomes a fire Bartz in his randomness, and I said I wasn't going to show animations, but I will show Gilgamesh's USB 2 animation, because it's pretty nice. Goes all unlimited blade works, and now we get to watch all 4 of his chases. I am the bone of my Excalibur. We get more. Oh, we get more. That's the 10-hit chase, by the way. That's an awesome, awesome chase. And here, I think this is the 1-hit. He trips. He trips and hits once. So... Oh yeah, I didn't mention that on his chain, but it's a plus fire damage heavy armor, and his USB 2 is a plus fire damage katana. So that's also awesome. Yeah, small booster, 20% increased fire damage, and it's not with synergy; it's in all realms everywhere. So Gilgamesh's USB 2 is a very powerful physical fire USB. 4th 6-star Terra's USB. When can we expect the 6-star Samurai ability? A long, long time from now. It will probably release around the same time as the 5-star Ice Magicite. So it'll be relevant at the time that it's released. You'll be using 5 stars for a while, but we don't have an Ice Magicite to fight for a while. And the 5 stars will work very well on Ice Gabines. Anyway, Terra's USB has been a common addition in festivals for a very long time. We already know it's really good. Her X Magitech is very simple status to understand. It is not a quick cycle, but just a straight up cast speed buff. Magic plus 30% and times 2 cast speed for 25 seconds. It is unique that it goes 25 seconds instead of 15, which is actually kind of nice because it means you only need to cast it once at the beginning of the battle. Where on another USB, if you're getting entrusted and you cast it at like 8 seconds, that would mean in order to keep on, chasing or quick casting, you would need to recast it by the end of the fight. And not only that, but 5-star Magicites aren't going to be limited to 30-second fights. You do get extra rewards for clearing 5-star Magicites under 30 seconds, but it's only Arcana. It's only the growth eggs for Magicite. Yes, cast speed buffs do overlap with each other. It's only Arcana, so you're not. There's no like huge benefit like there is right now for clearing 4-star Magicites under 30 seconds to get those crystals. So 5-star Magicite fights, if you would like to, if you're unable to, you shouldn't feel bad or be overly pressured towards making it an under 30-second fight. And in that case, having a USB with a status that lasts longer than the 15 seconds that everybody else's does is actually a really powerful thing to have. So Terra's USB, though common, is a good thing to have. So that situation I described on the first banner, where if you don't have Rain's Burst Soul Break, it's a really powerful thing to have. But I had Rain's Burst Soul Break. I have 3 of them. I have an 8-star. Makes that bad. Well, in this case, I don't have Terra's USB, but I do have a lot of good things for Terra. So getting her USB would be a pretty powerful thing for me here. So I'm happy. I'm happy that this is here. The way banners are constructed, it's going to be bad for someone, and it's going to be good for somebody. Anyway, next. We have Locke's USB 1, which is, I think a lot of people think 1, 1 and 2. 2 is greater than 1. I believe, and I'm in agreement with it, that the general consensus is that Locke's USB 1 is actually better than his USB 2. And that's because it is a very powerful Imperil USB. And Imperils are really strong in 5-star Magicites. We're used to in 4-star Magicites at the moment that bosses are 50% vulnerable. And the more vulnerable a boss is by default, the less impactful Imperil is. You can only imperil the boss 6 notches on the elemental scale. So the max imperil of 6 would, it moves the boss. Or it doesn't move the boss past 100% vulnerable, because you can't be more than 100% vulnerable. So having a character like Locke who can singularly imperil a boss 6 notches, or 60%, means that you lose a little bit of that benefit on 4-star Magicite. 5-star Magicites are only 20% vulnerable. So there's that benefit in that the full 60% is useful. And there's also the other one is that these are additive bonuses. So let's take Locke's entry Imperil Fire and say he procs 1 of his minor Imperil Fires. That's 30% of Imperil. 30% of Imperil on a 50% vulnerable boss, making it 80% vulnerable, is less of a damage boost than taking a 20% vulnerable boss and making them 50%. Imperils are become... I think that's what they were trying to go for here. That they wanted Imperil to have a larger role. They upped the defenses for 5-star Magicite to just incredible levels, and they increased the potency of Imperil versus stuff like Endfire. Would I like both? Yeah, but I think the general consensus, and I agree with it, is that Locke USB is going to be no more useful than his USB 2. And Locke's USB, or Locke's LM2 is a trance legend dive, and it is very good. I have not, and I'm not going to, because the banner was not what I thought it was going to be. And that's all I'm going to say on that, because I want to stick to the analysis. Locke's USB 1 plus trance is devastating. There's nothing about his trance that makes either the... Actually, that's wrong. His trance would make his USB 1 more valuable than it does his USB 2. Because the faster that he can attack, the faster... Well, the more opportunities he can inflict Imperil Fire. Where on his USB 2, that doesn't matter as much because it's just a chase. Like, say his trance or his LM2 increased his damage output. That wouldn't affect his USB 1, but it would affect his USB 2, where the trance affects both. So anyway, his USB 1 is a really good pickup. The Locke's ASB is good. Locke is a really powerful character. Alright, so that's the 6-star section. I have no faults. I can't find any fault here. We have 3 elemental relics as well. If there's a nitpick, and it's a teeny nitpick, it's that it's physical and magical. And if you're aiming to buff your physical team but not your magical team, then you have the opportunity or the chance to pull things for the damage type that you're not looking for. But that's... it's hard to even call that a nitpick, because aren't almost all banners like that? We don't always get, a banner like the next festival, the Earth banner, with Maria and Renoa and Red 13, that's just completely Earth magic oriented. That stuff doesn't happen very often, so you can't really... And that's the point. You got to compare, is my mithril worth spending here, or is it worth spending elsewhere? Maybe that is a nitpick, that we're not really required to have fire damage right now for the initial 5 stars. Final Fantasy VI does have a quick torment Final Fantasy VI is one of the sooner torments. We'll be having that within the next 2 months. And with Terra and Locke here, that makes this a pretty powerful Final Fantasy VI banner. And Final Fantasy V as well is going to be one of the sooner torments. So this is actually a really relevant torment banner. So I was trying to find a nitpick and I couldn't find it. I actually found another strength. Yes. Yeah, Dorgon and Maria do hold up. Maria especially. With her USB. Alright, so moving on from the very powerful USB section, which you'll know that you want. That's the nice part about single elemental banners is it's usually easy to decide. It's usually easy to decide whether you need the banner or not. Do you need fire or do you not? Next on we move to a Glint, which is another plus fire armor, which is pretty nice. Instant and fire stacking, and the latest buffs to Glints, which is really nice. It gives her high quick cast too. I like everything about it. If you're in a 30-second fight, like 4 stars, and maybe 5 stars as well. I mean, I will be aiming for 5-star or sub 35 stars. I don't know if I'll be able to get them, but that will be my aim, because I do want those Arcana. But in that situation, there may be a lot of times where using her Glint, which is only 250 soul break points, will be a better investment than using her USB. And that's going to be... And since this is the first Glint that happens in the festival, that's... I'm going to talk about Glints in general here. Is that there are going to be times where these will be more valuable than USBs. Because often what you're doing when you're casting a USB is you're providing yourself with the N-Fire status. And if you're providing yourself with the status with the USB, then the 10 initial attacks don't deal that much damage. It's something, but it's not that impactful. You're providing yourself N-Fire, and you're providing yourself with damage buffs. So the magic plus 30%, which, you know, if you need the plus magic, then obviously your USB becomes better. I'm just trying to say that there will be situations where her Glint will exceed usefulness of her USB because it uses less soul break points. It's instantaneous, so you can consider that to be damage output because she gets to using abilities next turn even faster. The high quick cast 2 is going to be a very powerful thing. It helps replace the ×2 cast speed, not completely, but it does. And it provides her with N-Fire stacking. So if all you're using Terra for is to be an OSB or an ASB bot, and you want all the soul break points that you can get on Terra, then I would like to cast less. So Glint, fire away. So that's me talking about Glints, basically, is that there's a very good use for them on certain characters. Terra is one of them, because she's a fantastic soul break user. And, okay, here's another thing. On Terra specifically, Terra has a ×2 cast speed trance, which means Terra, at the beginning of the battle, should probably have her trance mode triggered, so she already has a 25-second cast speed buff in effect, which reduces the effect of other ×2 cast speed buffs, or other cast speed buffs. So that makes her USB a little less valuable, so you would want to spend less soul break points gaining the N-Fire. Less soul break points, less time. An element effect damage from all sources. Practically. All self-sourced sources. Anything that used by the character, like Terra. That does damage on that element. The exceptions I'm thinking of are characters like Cypher from the first banner. He has an N-Dark LMR. And Dark Radiant Chain, Burst Soul Break 2. If you use the Dark Radiant Chain, or Dark Radiant Shield, the hits from the Dark Radiant Shields are considered not coming from Cypher, which means that they would not be buffed by the End Dark and element that is on Cypher. There you go. Okay, so I guess the point here is glints are probably have more future potential as points of strength than burst soul breaks. So I'm not going to consider them part of the burst soul break section, which is good. It's good. A great indicator on a banner because that eats into the burst soul break section normally. Unfortunately, on this banner, it doesn't. It eats into the LMR section. There's only 3 here. Okay, so bursts. Gilgamesh Burst Soul Break 2, 8 single target, physical fire, non-elemental end fire, grant retaliate to self, and enter as one mode. Well, that doesn't deal any damage, so it's got to make up for it. This is a way for Gilgamesh to spend 500 Soul Break points and give himself retaliate on a turn that you deal no damage in order to use one of those samurai abilities. Not feeling it so far. But in as one mode, grant instant cast 3 and remove as one mode. Does granting yourself instant cast 3 make up for the fact that you're wasting a turn on command 1? No, it actually doesn't. Command 2, 4 single target. That's a bad burst command. But in Asmon mode, 5 single target. That's a good burst command, but you need to waste a turn doing nothing in order to get that command. And if you're going to give yourself retaliate, you might as well use the 5-star ability that gets 50% increased crit from retaliate. This is a burst. It's just like Beatrix's Burst Soul Break 2. It's something for newer accounts. There's not going to be a whole lot of value you're going to get for Venerate accounts from a burst like this. Terra's Burst Soul Break 2, a little different. The command 1's going to deal a fair amount of damage because it has higher damage of exploiting elemental weakness, but it's still going to generate a low amount of soul break points because it's a burst command, which means it generates 75 if exploiting weakness, where 5-star abilities generate 105. That is a large difference. So I'd rather use Chain Faraga. But the difference here on Terra's BSB2 is that it's a Fire Bracer, which makes it a decent pickup, and the Command 2 is something that is actually really useful and grants her a Magic Bargain, which is Magic plus 30% and Defense minus 30%. So this is a burst that will be worth using sometimes on Terra. Lock Burst Soul Break 2. Eight single target physical fire, non-elemental end fire. Pretty basic so far until you get to the command 2. 2 single target. Range physical fire, non-elemental, attack plus 50% and attack minus 50% to the user. Honestly, could be good. Probably not. It's probably typical, but I'm reaching. So understand that I'm reaching when I say what I'm saying here. It could be good in a Torment situation because there are 3 difficulties in Torment. Know now that the highest difficulty in Torment is really, really, really difficult. It's so difficult that I, along with many players, are probably not going to be able to defeat them. Not only not defeat them, but not get any rewards from them. Maybe get a 50% damage done before dying reward. That's how difficult they are. And the thing about the highest difficulty of Torment is that if you're running a full synergy team, the boss is 70% resistant to debuffs. See this attack minus 50% debuff here? But don't think that just because you can't defeat or get any rewards from the highest difficulty, that the other two difficulties are, you know, are worthless, because they're not. They're very, very useful. Because if you add up the rewards from the first and second difficulties together, you get what in Japan is called rubies. And we turn those rubies in for rewards, and those rewards are 6-star abilities. 6-star abilities make us stronger, obviously. And there's varied, awesome 6-star abilities that you can get according to who you have and what makes you stronger. So being able to defeat those first two torment difficulties will make us stronger, and hopefully one day we're able to defeat the last difficulty. And here's a trait on the first and second, or at least the second difficulty, is that the boss, if you're running a 5 synergy team, is 50% resistant to debuffs, which is the same resistance to debuffs. Yeah, it's still rubies. We have that confirmed. All right, I hadn't seen those yet. The boss is 50% resistant to debuffs. That is the exact same resistance that our multiplayer bosses have, our D260, D220 bosses have, and we already know for a fact that debuffs are very powerful when bosses are 50% resistant. That's why Magicite bosses and the highest difficulty of Torment bosses are as resistant to debuffs as they are, because debuffs are so powerful. So stuff like this could actually be useful, because not only are you in a situation where the second difficulty has debuffs being actually worth something, but it could be a situation, like if you're using Terra, for instance, where you don't have any physical buffs on the team. What if you don't have any physical buffs on the team? Well, being able to buff yourself and debuff the boss at the same time, it's pretty nice. This could, and like I said, I'm reaching here, because this is not going to be useful in Magicite or the highest difficulty of Torment, is that this could be useful to, you know, work your way up. So not only is this going to be good, obviously, because it's a burst for beginner accounts, but it could be good for intermediate accounts as well. For the last time, it was a reach. Trying to make this, you know, worth something, but I think it's worth it because it is fire armor. And it does have a useful command. Not like the universal usefulness of a self-buff on Terras. A self-buff that stacks with everything. The reason why Locke's self-buff doesn't get me is because you can usually expect on your physical team to have a 50% attack buff. I think that's a reasonable expectation, because they're so common, and they're going to be even more common now that we have access to Generation 2 chains, which, hey, we have on this banner for Gilgamesh's Generation 2 fire chain. All right, moving on. Oh, I forgot to add the animation links onto this banner. I'll have to remember that. Vivi's BSB2, 6 area effect, magical fire, lightning, ice attacks, magic and resistance, plus 30% to party. 4 single target magic, fire, lightning, ice attacks, and 2 area of effect, magic, fire, magical, fire, non-elemental, and magic bargain. So we know that magic bargain is a good thing for mages to have. But like Terra, we need to find a reason to actually cast it. And at least Terra's gives her end fire. That's a reason. Like if you have her ASB, or any other reason, just having end fire is a good thing. But Vivi doesn't have that, but he does have the ability to buff the party with magic resistance plus 30%. Useful thing on mage parties, less useful now than it used to be, because before we've for 2 years now we've had access to attack plus 50% buffs. So it hasn't like been that useful to use more than one attack buff on a physical team, but mages have been limited to 30% buffs, which means it was always a pretty good idea to stack at least 2 30% buffs. which made Burst Soul Breaks like this really useful. Remember my praise for Rain's Burst Soul Break. But these days this becomes a little less useful because we finally have 50% magic buffs with the 50% elemental chains, or the Generation 2 chains. This becomes... I think this is kind of basic and not that great by itself right now. By itself. It is nice that he can bargain, but if you're using Vivi on your team, you're probably using Vivi for his USB. But if you were to pull on the Final Fantasy IX banner, it's going to be in a few weeks, and get Vivi's LMR, the ability to start out the fight with Endfire and then use this would actually make this a pretty good cast. But that's still single elemental Vivi. It does say lightning and ice, but I think the usefulness of the lightning and iceness is not as much as it used to be. But as I'm sure a lot of you have seen in the past, beginner accounts thrive off of multi-elemental things. Like being able to bring Vivi to so many fights and exploit 3 different weaknesses with a burst and a burst command. So you don't have to go crazy on honing 3, 4, or 5-star abilities. This is good for a beginner account. Creel BSB is not good. This is just a plain old burst. Area of effect and fire, 4 single target, chance to interrupt or stun, and 2 area of effect, low chance to slow. Not that useful. Low damage, low soul break yield commands, just a typical burst, not good. Kind of disappointed that this is here. This is really, really lame to have on a banner. The only reason I could consider wanting this would be if I had her chain and I wanted the ability to give Endfire to Creel. Her chain is not on the banner, so that even throws out some of the usefulness of this. So I dislike that this is here, definitely. So this Burst Soul Break section, kind of weak. Kind of weak. Gilgamesh's BSB2, I don't really care for it. Terra's BSB2, Fire Bracer, at least, and a command worth using, so okay, sure. Locke BSB2, less useful, because the command is kind of out there. It does give Locke the ability to end fire, though. Remember, his USB 1 is Imperil Fire, so using the 2 in conjunction would actually be a worthwhile thing to have. I forgot to mention that. It just popped in my head. Him having the ability to end fire on the banner is actually a good thing. Talking about Creel USB and her chain made me think of that. Vivi Burst Soul Break, not really feeling it. Good for newer accounts. Creel Burst Soul Break, probably not good for anybody but brand new accounts. So pretty weak Burst Soul Break section. At least there's 2 elemental armors. And a stunted LMR section with Gilgamesh LMR, 25% chance to dual cast Samurai. Very good. Terra, 25% chance to dual cast fire abilities, including stuff like Valley Garmanda. Very good. Though I think a lot of Terra's plus damage is BLK. I could be wrong, and that's why I'm checking it. She gets 9% BLK here, but she also gets 9% summon, so it doesn't even matter. So never mind. It's good that she can dual cast fire because she is a potent summoner. And in the future, there's going to be another 6-star summoning ability that deals 4 hits. So that's another thing that she can use. And Locke, hey, start battle with Endfire. So all that stuff that I talked about on his BSB2, Still good on his BSB2, but obviously a hell of a lot better on his LMR. You'd rather not have to spend soul break points on it, because one of the benefits of Imperil soul breaks is that recasting, very valuable. Stacking up that Imperil, always going to be good. So all three of the LMRs are fantastic. Banner altogether, I love this. Love the 6-star section. I think it's really powerful. All of this is going to be very, very good. I mean, we haven't seen the 5-star Ice Magicite yet, but I can't imagine stuff this powerful not being useful. Terra's Glint at least offsets the bad Bursal Break section. And the Fire Bracer, Fire Light Armor offsets the bad Bursal Break section. And Terra's BSB is actually usable. I use Terra's BSB on my Magical Clear of Eisgebind. Because it's good. It's good. Because I don't have her USB. If I had her USB, obviously I would not use this at all. Because I wouldn't have to Magic Bargain, because I get N-Fire and a plus 30% magic buff from the cast itself. But it's a good replacement. Yeah, that was just her 4-star dive. I know she gets plus fire damage in her 5-star. That's why I knew not to worry about it, because I knew it applied to both her summoning and BLK. I just wanted to see if I was mistaken on her being a better black mage than a summoner. That's not true. She's just as good at both. Okay, any comments? My personal comments, I think I'm going to be pulling here. I don't have any fire chains, so getting a physical fire chain would be good. Terra's ASB is always going to be good. That's an extremely powerful relic. Gilgamesh USB 2, Fire Relic, Physical Fire. Terra USB, I have a lot of things for Terra, including her ASB. Getting her USB would be a good thing, and Lock USB 1 would also be a good thing. And there's just a high degree, or a high amount of things that hit for me on this banner, on characters that I know are going to be effective very far down the line in Fire. So I like it. I like the banner. I'm going to throw 50 at it and see what happens. It's not like going to be an investment banner like the first one. The thing I would pull on this, but almost exclusively ASB and LMR. Yeah, that's not enough, yeah. I would want all of the, at least 4 of the 6 stars and the LMRs for me to want to pull on this banner, which I do. What's up, E-Daddy? Yeah, definitely. And that's in response to E-Daddy. It's definitely safe to wait until September to pull on Fire. If you don't have a sub 30 on Eisgebind. Or if you don't have to sub 30 Eisgebind. Because the good farming Magicite is Malorus. You only need to sub 30 Eisgebind if you need to accumulate Ice Magicite for Tiamat. Which means you need to kill Eisgebind a lot. So you could wait. There's nothing wrong with waiting for the strength. But remember, it's not just Magicite that you're building up these relics for, but also Torment. It's going to be hard building in Realm Synergy back into the way we view things. But I think getting 5 and 6 Synergy is going to be a good thing for the Torments that are coming soon. If you want to see how soon. The 5 Torment is July 26th, or that's ETA, and the 6 Torment, August 30th. So August 30th is a lot further away. That's a month before the September festival. I want to emphasize, Daddy, that if you may think that you're strong in realms right now, but you're probably not. There are very few of us. I'm seriously, very, 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 very few of us that are strong enough to beat the highest level of these torments. That's up to you, Falfarine. I would say the strong characters in Final Fantasy IX or Final Fantasy V are on that banner are Bartz and Galuf. No, I'm definitely going to try as well. I don't want to push anybody away from it. I just want to make people understand that you think you might be strong, but you're not. So getting synergy for some realm... actually, this is a good time to talk about this. So say the highest difficulty of torments are very difficult. Here are the realms and their the schedule in which they will be released. Don't worry about the dates, just the order. We have Tactics 5, 12, 7, 6, 8, 4, 13, 15, and that's enough for now. Say we're unable to defeat the highest level of these torments. What does that mean? How do we prepare for them? And I was thinking about this personally because I am a free-to-play player, that I looked ahead and saw what kind of rewards we get, which is listed down here. I know that it costs 180 rubies to get myself a 6-star ability, right? Where in D240, we get 40 rubies. In D280, we get 160. That's 200 rubies. If we defeat the first 2 difficulties in Torment, we have the ability to pull 1 6-star. So what about the last difficulty? 280 rubies by itself, which means an ability, and plus the 20 you had left over from these, you're well on your way to accumulating enough for the next ability. So doesn't it make sense to overcommit to a couple realms instead of trying to spread out my mithril? That is seriously asking a question, and probably something I'm going to follow through on, is that I may want to overcommit for certain realms, so maybe I can defeat that last difficulty, which gives me the ability to make even more 6-stars. And the ability to make even more 6-stars will make it easier for me to defeat the others that I'm not committing on. So I kind of looked at event banners in the future and said, what are the strongest event banners that are coming up? And how can I make myself super, super, super strong in those realms? And I saw that Final Fantasy V qualifies because of the Bart's ASB banner that's coming up about a month from now. Final Fantasy Tactics does not, for me, personally, because I think it's kind of a pipe dream without Marsh's USB. Even if I pull Ram's chain and Orlando's USB, I'm probably too weak to make much of a dent. So Tactics is kind of out of the question. Final Fantasy XIV, even if I get Ash off of this event, probably still out of the question. Final Fantasy VII is a possibility because I think the Final Fantasy VII event banner coming up is good, and that's the theme here, is modern banners. are probably what give us the best chance to get these. Tactics does not qualify. Tactics Advanced Banner that launches with its Torment is not good. Final Fantasy VIII is like I mentioned, is a really, really powerful banner, and I plan on pulling on that event banner. So let's say that I'm able to take down the Final Fantasy V and Final Fantasy VIII D question marks, the highest difficulty. That's I guess that's my aim, is to focus on 5 and 8. So I can build up my 6-star abilities, which will help with Magicite. So I defeat 5-star Magicites, which also helps with Torment as well. It's knocking over the first domino, if you will. All right. Last look for questions before moving on. I'm going to take a little break. I need a drink. I think for those of you that care, a really good thing that you can do is look at the release schedules of Torments and 5-star Magicites. So you can understand what is more of a pressing need and what is something that you can put off to perhaps make stronger in a later festival. So this is this, and then Magicites start in September, and we'll go, you will need earth damage, and then lightning damage, then water damage, and then fire damage, all on a monthly cycle. The 5-star Magicites are released once monthly, one at a time. Alright, I'll be back in a sec. Then we'll get to Banner 3. Oh, what's up, Skillet?